Welcome to the bold analysis. The social distance that UDA MPs are giving President Ruto and the new wave of hostilities in the counties that pro-government governors are facing is actually opening the discussion wider. And instead of denying that there is a problem, I think the problem is becoming more clearer. I want to show you the wave of protest and hostilities that some governors are facing, and we also look at why the MPs are no longer interested in attending the president's events. Because since the finance bill since the finance bill U-turn and all that, things really changed. In Nandi, I wanted to look at the video in Nandi where youths occupied the governor's office demanding completion of major projects. And after they stormed the governor's office, they camped there for more than 3 hours. And despite of the security guards trying to say that the governor was not there, there was no option. And Governor Sang had to come out to address the team.
Watu wa boda boda hii yenu. Ni sasa. Yeah. Tukae chini mzuri. Haya, hiyo ni sawa.
Sisi majenzi tulikuja hapa leo kwa address issues zetu, but they were goons, they were paid yesterday night. Tumekuja hapa tunaanza kufurugwa sisi wengine, hata we were not given chance kuongea. Tulikuwa tunataka kuongea unemployment, accountability, but the only thing governor ameongelea hapa, ameongelea ECD peke yake. We need receipts, atuonyeshe kama hizo ECD sijui alisema ngapi zimejengwa, atupe hizo receipts. Na acha kuongelea ECD peke yake. We are given equal amount Nandi County. We are given equal amount Nandi County kama other counties. Unasikia?
Tumekuja hapa Kapsabet kwa minajili ya kupatiana our grievances. Lakini haikuwezekana kwa maana kuna goons ambao waliweza kutuachak na hatukuweza kupatiana our grievances.
In our county there are so many stalled projects. There are so many from the audit report. There is hakuna accountability for funds that were misused. There is so many, even our public hospitals we don't have medicines. In our dispensaries we don't have medicine. The governor is focused on installing new projects.
Biashara ya wanandi. Na hatutakubali biashara hapa iharibiwe. Kila mtu chukua kiti, kaa chini. Wale wanataka kutoka nje na kwenda kuharibu mkutano biashara ya watu, ndio mtajua Nandi hakuna mchezo. Enda guza biashara ya mtu wa Nandi hapa, ndio wewe utajua mimi ni nani. Atikwenda kuharibu biashara, mwenye wako na shida huko, ama huko na shida, huko na shida na mimi na serikali. Hauna shida na mwanabiashara. So usijaribu, wale naona mnafanya jaribu kwenda town kuharibu biashara ya hapa Nandi, ndio utajua Nandi hatutaki mchezo. We want to take care of businesses ya kila mtu. Lakini ile kitu mimi naomba tukuwe na heshima, hakuna mtu ataharibu kitu ya mtu Nandi kwa sababu tunachunga biashara za kila mtu. Ya pili, hapa Nandi hatuna maneno ya president ya governor. Kama unataka kusema nani must go, labda useme kama na must go. Lakini hawezi sema ati rais anaweza enda nyumbani. Hiyo ni maneno ya Nairobi na atulete hapa. Sawa sawa. Mbona wewe ulipwe kuja mkutano? Kama hii ilikuwa kitu ya kufanya ya ukweli, mbona hao wamelipwa kuja kufanya kuharibu hapa? Mbona wako kuja kuuliza maswali? Mbona wamekuja? So inamaanisha kwamba kuna maneno ya siasa inachezwa. Na mimi nilikubali kuja hapa kwa sababu nilijua tunataka kuzungumza kama wananchi wa Nandi. Lakini kama ni maneno ya kucheza siasa, mimi pia tunaweza sasa tucheze siasa. alafu tuone hii siasa, tutacheza siasa mpaka tufike wapi.
That is Nandi. And in fact, if you look in social media, the number of more digital activists that are calling out President Ruto are coming from the Kalenjin land. I know that President's advisors are wary of it, and that is a clear indication that those who are thinking along the tribal lines, maybe this time round they are getting it wrong. So Nandi and Uasin Gishu has been really hot, and of course in Nandi, Alfred Keter comes from there. There are political figures like Senator Cherargei, who was also an activist by the way. He was running series of protests in Kapsabet, has also been lethal against the conduct, or rather the delivery of services by cabinet members in government. And apart from that, look at Isiolo. Isiolo Governor Abdi Guyo office was also occupied, people seeking services and saying that they did not elect the governor to operate from Nairobi. They've been complaining of rampant corruption that has riddled devolution in that county. And they're asking Governor Guyo, who was actually an MCA from Nairobi here, then later became a governor in Isiolo, just to ensure that he serves the people or he's shown the door. And those are two governors. Even Nairobi here, things have not been looking so nice. And if you're watching and you've been looking at this hostility, different counties, something is going on. So I just want to explain something kidogo about the hostilities that governors are facing. Part of the problem that the country is facing now, I don't know whether I want to call it brokenness or what, I can't get the right word for it, but part of the problem is disbursements. Disbursements for capitation. The money that's supposed to leave national government, that is supposed to be devolved, the devolved funds, is facing hitches. And since January, there is outstanding balance that the counties are still, that the national government still owe the counties. And that has really riddled some services in those counties. And that was emerging as one of the challenges that really the governors are really facing. You will also appreciate the fact that contrary to a public perception that Occupy protests, these Occupy protests are actually targeting the urban, even the rural folks are taking up the initiative and they're putting governor on check. I think my people from CI should also maybe check on Governor Orengo, just the state of the stadium. It's really been going snailing. Maybe you can also visit your governor. Now, Didmus Baraza attended a burial, and this is an MP now, attended the burial of one gentleman who was killed in the protest in Bungoma. And he could not get comfort in that event because every speaker who was coming was telling the MPs that the blood of young people that were killed is stained in your hands.
Nikasema kwamba nimeweza kufanya hivyo, lazima nisimame na huyu kijana. Mimi nilieleza kuwa nitatoa gari yangu nilete huyu kijana nije nizike. Na sababu gani mimi nilisema nije nizike huyu kijana? Huyu kijana ni shujaa. Ni shujaa sababu amefariki, lakini wale watu amesaidia ni watu wengi sana. Bila huyu kijana, hiyo finance bill ingekuwa saini sheria. Bila huyu kijana, ile Land Act ingekuwa ni sheria. Na hiyo, na wale watu walipitisha, mmoja wetu tumekaa naye hapa, rafiki yangu Didmas Barasa. Ukweli useme ama usisemwe? Ukweli useme ama usisemwe? Lazima tuseme ukweli. Nyinyi si mlipa Didmas kura? Mliambia apige yes ama no? Mliambia apige yes ama no? Si nyinyi ndio mnasema? Na alipiga yes ama no? Alipiga yes. Hawa watoto wetu wale wamefariki, wako na damu ya viongozi wa Bungoma. Kama hawa viongozi wa Bungoma hawangepiga yes, hawa vijana wangekuwa hapo. Mimi natoka hapa saa hizi, niko naenda Bubula kuzika mtoto wa form 2 alipigwa risasi kutoka nyuma. Jana nimekuwa namjengea nyumba, tunaenda kuzika yeye saa hizi. Sababu gani? Sababu wale viongozi wa Bungoma, viongozi 8 walipewa kila mtu milioni mbili kupiga hiyo kura.
So he was put to task to explain more about this. And because I have some analysis around it, I will not delve much on that, much of these human rights violations. But I'm more shocked on the way Waziri Kindiki has been behaving around it, saying that there's no problem in the country. Now, Meru Senator was also in the chambers today and was asking government that you cannot afford to despise the Gen Zs because they will send you home. In fact, he was saying that we must pay attention to them. They are learned, they have done some bit, and they know what they are saying. We must listen to them. This Meru Senator, the statement by Meru Senator is also what was echoed by Mutahi Kahiga. Now, after the finance bill, some few developments happened. The MPs whose houses were even touched, including the head of finance committee, Kimani Kuria. And after that, what we saw is some sanitizing, some group of clergy were actually mobilized to go and sanitize the home. And some, even like Ichungwa, the CDF office was banned. And some other MPs also faced that hostility. And what then happened is a number of politicians actually had a backseat. I think just some 2 days ago, we in some WhatsApp group for involving some reporters. And there was that complaint that when you want now for you to get a panelist on government side to appear in your show, it's a big problem. And there is a lot of push and pull. Someone cannot just, unlike in the past where you just call an MP and say, even the regular panelists who will just come appear. Nowadays, if you call, they always tell you, wait, prepare, where are the questions and what. So there is a lot of caution around it. And remember, the government spokesperson, Isaac Mwaura, was even supposed to appear in Citizen TV for some interview. And that was last week. And despite of confirming to Yvonne Okwara that he was going to be available, that interview was cancelled last minute. So they've taken a back seat, and some of these politicians that were vocal, including Kimani Kuria, who are the guys in the budget, if you look at Dendi Nyoro, the guys who were supporting that finance bill, and quite a number of MPs that were vocal have actually had a back seat. And these politicians are nowhere. In fact, the MPs who used to defend President Ruto in Harambes, in churches, and in funerals, but they have all gone quiet. Politicians normally coalescing around Ruto is also reducing. In fact, I foresee that by the time we'll be getting to 2027, the number of MPs and the political class that will be around the president in his campaign trail is going to reduce. Remember, the first person that walked out of Ruto's rallies is his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. Of course, after that much publicized fallout. So the general consensus here is there is hostility on Kenya Kwanza. and the MPs are now keeping distance. There is a social distance that MPs are keeping with president's events. When he was in church in Kilgoris, he sneaked in church. There were only a couple of host MPs from that region. Today he was in Kajiado. I think he only tagged along Kimani Chungwa. And the more you follow that trend, you will realize that that number is reducing. There is a video that I've just been seen of who is that? Sabina Chege campaigning and decampaigning William Ruto and talking about campaigning in the context of what they are looking for and not speaking about the national agenda. So I want to explain when leaders are keeping distance with President Ruto immediately, especially around after the Gen Z issues emerged. Let me tell you, the first issue here is the danger of running anti-Gen Z narratives. The Gen Z are the people below 35 years. In urban center and even in other areas, we have majority of voters within that bracket. And because of the current civic awakening that is going on, that group is going to vote. So remember the day that the parliament was even supposed to take, a day before the parliament was supposed to take the finance bill vote, there were some MPs that were coming from urban constituencies and some also coming from some constituencies that they are facing stiff competition from the Azimio and their counterparts. They requested the president to allow them vote no, just oppose it for the sake of also securing their seats because they are facing stiff competition. But the president did not accept. In fact, what came out is if you were to vote no to finance bill, then what was going to happen was that your area was going to be excluded in terms of development. Now, what these MPs now know is if you attend a rally and the president is there, then you go for the debrief. If you look at the tone and the way they, like today they were speaking in Kajiado. I will analyze that video in some other video next. But there are two things that we're saying there. Kimani Chungwa is saying some scavengers that want to take over government. President Ruto on the other side is saying that there are some foreign powers planning something. So, President Ruto has decided that, and he has put something in mind that I'm not going to listen to Gen Z. In fact, I'll put more effort and more strategies to pacify the protests so that I can just rule and see what will happen. But this is a trap that most MPs cannot go for. In fact, let me say, for the presidential level, if the president misses, in the light of this Gen Z, in the light of what is going on, as a politician, you can still play your cards smartly, in a smart way, that you don't antagonize your constituents, even in the wake of this Gen Z protests. So one of the reasons why MPs are so scared of hanging around Ruto is the danger of being told to hit Gen Z. And most MPs are actually also Gen Z, are really, really, really close to those Gen Zs. Number two, I've been getting this for quite some time, that the fact that William Ruto rejected finance bill a day after whipping members of parliament to pass that bill did not sit well with some MPs. Because, and I saw them, then they went to State House and they were clapping when the president was now saying, we are going to suspend the finance bill. And I've always wondered, if William Ruto knew very well that he would just throw away that finance bill, then what was the push and the need to even push MPs to vote on that fateful day, on that 24th, over the finance bill, knowing very well that the country was not in a good shape. The country was not in a good frame. We were not in a good shape. The emotions were high, and I think the country was burning. in rage, burning with rage. So the fact that he rejected the bill after some MPs passed it, some MPs realized that it actually exposed their weakness, or the fact that it is a rubber stamp of the executive. And that is why some are really not finding it comfortable around the president. Now, the other thing here is the bottom-up agenda is becoming more unpopular. Sometimes when I listen to the president's speeches, I concur with political observers who say that either president doesn't have good advisors or he doesn't listen to his advisors, but it's normally the latter, that he doesn't listen to them. In fact, I've seen that circular of them being reduced. I think they should not even be there in the first place, because the input, I don't know, the intellectual and the empirical evidence input, the input in governance, the input of advisors in governance is what has brought us here. If the input is being taken care of, is normally being implemented, then partly we are here because of that input. Now, if they are normally ignored, if perhaps for them they have the right intel and the president is ignoring them, then it also makes sense for them to be, those positions, they need to be scrapped off. That bottom-up agenda is unpopular, and IMP, senator, governor, someone seeking an elective seat will not risk going back to voters to tell them, I want to implement some bottom-up shenanigan here. People have not seen it, and the problem here is, to me, probably it's something that can be implemented, but it's not a Kenyan thing. You know why I'm saying it's not a Kenyan thing? I'm saying that because politicians normally don't serve masses. The leaders we elect, despite or rather in spite of the good speeches and the promises in the rallies, when a project is even to be done, it's not normally in the interest of Wanjiku. The first thing is what is in it for me. The projects that have stalled, not because there is no money, but because the person who is supposed to sign the check has not got his share. So the bottom up, which is supposed to give prominence and priority to what is uplifting the masses down there, it's not a Kenyan thing. And even the MPs know very well. If you want to know that, we are talking about bottom up, but we've passed a conflict of interest bill to allow MPs and senators and leaders to do business with their family members. It will not be questioned. Lastly, the austerity measures, pressure on austerity measures is also yielding some fruit. Remember, I've even seen last week there was a discussion on the size of the president's motorcade. Whether it's unnecessarily long, you realize that President anafuata na magari kama 10. I know there are different layers of the security which is beyond us, but part of that convoy carries politicians. Politicians who, when they attend those events, they need some allowance, and if probably the state is not paying them, they will go back to their kitty and draw some allowances and fake some documents there. They go there, they fuel their cars, because some of them use the card, they fuel their cars, and they waste a lot of money that is supposed to help the people. So that probably is it, and that's why I'm seeing the crowd, the political crowd, the elite politicians around President Ruto are actually reducing over that hostility. Thank you.